So hello everyone. So welcome back to the multi-part series on NgRx. So we'll be giving a short brief as to what we discussed in our last video. So in our last video, we actually went over the overall architecture of NgRx. So let me just pull that up. So if you see the basic building blocks of NgRx application are your actions, your selectors, your NgRx store. You have the selectors which basically fetches values from the store. You have the reducer which basically updates the store. You have actions which get dispatched from the component. And if say there are any side effects or if there are any service calls, that will always go through the effects, which will basically in turn call your endpoint and fetch the details from the database, right? And again, once it reaches back to the effects will call another action which will go and update the overall Redux store. Okay, so this was just a recap as to what we covered in the last video. So in this video will basically be more focused on creating a feature module reducer. So in the last video, what we saw was we created a root reducer for the overall application, and we defined an app state, which is like the global state, right? So if I just show you that as well. So in this case, yeah, so we had defined the store, and in index.ts we had defined the root reducers.ts, right? So in this case, what we'll do is once this is defined, we also have the dashboard module, which happens to be a feature module, right? So this feature module is actually lazily loaded, or it can be eagerly loaded, right? So currently, whenever you type in localhost 4200, it directly takes me to the dashboard module, which clearly states that there's no feature or there's no lazy loading as such of the feature module, right? So what we'll do is we'll basically implement lazy loading so that the whole dashboard component or the dashboard module is lazily loaded. And once lazy loading happens, what we'll do is we'll actually load the state of the dashboard in our Redux store. That will also happen lazily. Okay, meaning only when the dashboard module loads will it load the dashboard state in the Redux store. Okay, if we move on to some other module, it will automatically be removed from the Redux store. Okay, so let's first implement the lazy loading for dashboard module. So if I just go back to the code, and if I check the dashboard routing, so this is correct. So if I go to app routing, okay, so this I have commented out. So I'll just uncomment it and I'll just say dashboard. Okay, so whenever I'm on the slash dashboard route, it should actually load our dashboard module. Okay, so now also in app module.ts, I had actually eagerly loaded it. So I'll remove this. Okay, so now okay, let me just do an ngserve first. Okay, so this is done. So now if I load the UI, okay, so it doesn't display anything, but the moment I say slash dashboard, it will actually load the dashboard module. Why I say this is, let's say if I go to the inspect and if I go to network and if I refresh the screen, so you see, I mean, if I go to all, so it will actually fetch all the details related to the dashboard here, right? There will be another network call which will fetch the whole module, and that is how lazy loading takes place, right? So yeah, so that's regarding the lazy loading, which probably all the Angular developers might already be aware. But now the main part is we need to create a store for the dashboard module so that the whole state of dashboard also is lazily loaded. So the way you do that is you will first create another terminal, and you will have to install something called as the NgRx schematics, which will help you create the store. So first we'll install this. Okay, so once this is installed, what we need to do is we need to run np or ng generate @ngrx schematics. Okay, let's first verify if it's already installed correctly. In package.json, if we just find NgRx, yeah, so we have NgRx schematics here, right? So we can use NgRx schematics. Now ng generate NgRx schematic store. Okay, and we need to define the store name. So we need to create it under the dashboard module, right? So we need to specify the path. So let's say if I say dashboard slash dashboard, and we need to specify the module name, right? So we'll say dashboard dot module dot ts. Okay. Okay. Okay, so once this is done, if you see, it has created a new reducer under the dashboard folder, and it has also updated the dashboard.module.ts. So if you see, if I just show you the dashboard.module.ts, what it has done is we had the store module.for root, right? So it works similar to your routing module. In the routing module, you have the router module.for root and for feature, and in store module, you have the for root and for feature here again. So for feature, it will first add it here, and it will also create a reducer under the reducers folder. If I just show you this, so it has created a key. So let's remove the unnecessary things. We don't need the meta reducers for now. Okay. Okay, so it has its own state. Let's call it dashboard state for now. And let's copy this, give it here. Okay, and then if I go back to the dashboard module, we don't need the meta reducer, so we'll also remove that. Okay, and if I go back to the index.ts, we'll redefine the reducer here. Firstly, before defining the reducer, we'll give it an initial state. So let's call it initial dashboard state, which will be of type dashboard state, and it will be blank for now. Okay. Or what we can do is inside the dashboard state, we can say it will have a list of contacts. This will be of type contact. Okay. And I'll import this interface. Okay, so I actually took this interface from, okay, and this is giving an error. Why? Because we have not defined contacts, and we'll just keep it blank. I took this from the dashboard module itself. So if you go to dashboard home and view contacts, so we have a list, a contact list here, right? So yeah, so I took the reference from the view contacts component. Okay. So if I go back to the dashboard module and index.ts we had defined. So, okay, this is the main index and this is the index that we are interested in, right? So now we need to define a reducer. So the syntax for that is export constant. Let's call it dashboard reducer. Okay. And we'll say create reducer. Okay. And this reducer will actually take, for now, it will take only the initial state. Okay, so initially whenever our dashboard module loads, so under our app state it will see something called as contacts and with a blank array. Okay, so now let's go to the UI. Okay, so our UI has loaded. So if I just show you the Redux state, so currently it is blank, right? Now if I load the dashboard module, so you see the dashboard state has suddenly come into the picture, right? And whatever initial state we defined, so if I go back and if I go to the index.ts, so this was the initial state we defined, right? And the dashboard key comes from here. Okay, the dashboard key we specify it under the dashboard module store module.for feature. Okay, so this is where this is the place where it takes it from. It creates a state within the actual app state, and once it has defined the app state or the dashboard state, it actually puts the initial state within it because we have defined that in the reducer, right? So this is, I mean, this is all lazily loaded. So what we did is we not only lazily loaded the whole module, but we are also lazily loading the whole state or probably the state which is related to the dashboard module, right? So if I go back to the root component, our dashboard state will be removed from the Redux store, right? So that is how we implement lazy loading for an NgRx Redux store state, right? So we'll keep this video till here. We'll end it here, and in the next video we'll actually see how we actually create an action We'll see the action syntax, what all inputs it takes. Okay. And if you like the video till here, and if you want more updates, and if you want to learn NgRx as a whole, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, and do subscribe to the channel. It always helps, right? Thank you, everyone.